Hello everyone and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we're continuing with Pirkei Torah Eliezer. This is chapter 40c. This is the last part of chapter 40, and this one is called The Secret Name. Hallelu et Adonai kol goyim, shabechu kol haomim, ki gavar alenu chasdo ve'emet Adonai le'olam hallelujah. As always, these teachings and everything that comes from it is for the safety and security of our soldiers on the front lines in the south and in the north and all throughout Israel, for the return of the hostages, and really for the safety and security and protection of all of Israel. Okay, so let's get into it. This is pretty much a continuation from last week. After a back and forth exchange between God and Moses, as Moses was giving every reason in the book why he was the wrong guy for the job, we read a very peculiar verse that, without understanding, is essentially meaningless. Exodus 4:13. Vayomer bi Adoni shlach na beyad tishlach. But he said, I beseech you, O Lord, please send now with whom you would send. The way it's written in the Hebrew is, it's like there's talk about trimming the fat. There's no unnecessary word there. So at this point in the next verse, we read that God's wrath was kindled against Moses after he said this, meaning maybe he touched on something that he shouldn't have, perhaps. So who is getting sent by what hand over to do what, where? What does this verse mean? By the hand of the man whom you will send in the future. He said to him, I have not said, come and I will send you to Israel, God says to Moses, but come and I will send you unto Pharaoh. So who is the man that is going to be sent? The man that Moses asked of God to send in his stead? The answer is in plain sight in Targum Yonatan. Va'amar beba'u berachamin min kadmach Adonai shlach kedon shlichutach Beyad lezenea beyad Pinchas, dechame demishlachtecha besof yamea. And he said, I pray for mercy before the Lord. Send now thy sending by the hand of Pinchas, by whom it is to be sent at the end of days. And who is Pinchas, if not Elijah, the prophet, who is to be sent to Israel before the coming of the son of David? So I told you guys, Targum Yonatan, though it is written in Aramaic, has an English translation in Sepharia. You just type in Targum Yonatan, and for whatever book you want, and there you go. And this entire work, in the Torah, every verse is speaking in prophecy. It's all in Aramaic, but every verse is speaking in prophecy. And if you have a good hold and knowledge of Torah, you will understand exactly what it's talking about. In other words, you could just read Targum Yonatan and be like, whoa. But now, wait a minute. How did Moses know about Pinchas? And how did he know that he would become Elijah? And how did Moses know about the end of days? When God revealed himself to Moses, newsflash, kids, when God revealed himself to Moses, within the heart of the bush, in those stages of revelation, he saw everything as time and space is just another created construct of the Creator. And when he wishes to give someone understanding, that person knows things that time-wise did not exist yet in a linear fashion. But as we have learned, everything already existed and everything already is. But due to the construct of time, we receive it in a linear fashion. So God reiterated to Moses that these were two different jobs. Elijah is for Israel, and that is at the end of time. But you now are for Pharaoh at this time in the here and now. And of this man that I will send in the future, says Pirkei Torah Eliezer, of him it is said in Malachi 3:23. But first we're going to add a verse before so you can see that Moses, and based on what Moses did, Elijah could do what he needs to do. So Moses had to come first and then Elijah afterwards. Keep in remembrance the Torah of Moses, my servant, the laws and ordinances which I commanded him in Horeb for all of Israel. This is a condition. If you keep remembrance, the Torah of Moses, the laws and its ordinances which I commanded. Zichut Torat Moshe Avdi, asher tziviti oto b'chorev al kol Yisrael chukim u'mishpatim. Lo, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Lord. Not everyone is going to merit this. You must understand, this is pretty much the theme of this class. And so, Israel, if you do not follow the Torah of Moses, when is Elijah even coming for you? Is he coming for you? No. This sounds conditional to me, like everything else that God has given us. It's really sad that people don't learn. I'll give you a kind of like a frustrating story from what I just saw now in the front, right? So, they released a few hostages. They already did this last week. One of them, some people cried out to God. They got saved in incredible ways. This one comes back. She gets a tattoo to commemorate what happened, and she writes, "We shall dance again," or "We will dance again." In other words, what we did, that wasn't enough. It's going to happen again. She had her shot. You know what I'm saying? Now, again, I don't know the cheshbon. I don't know who this person is, meaning where their soul is placed. But goodness me, if soldiers die for the sake of your release, and people died for the sake of your release, and you come out, there's no recognition to God, nothing, but rather getting a tattoo, which says in the 5 books of Moses, you shall not tattoo your skin. And saying, we're going to do what we did again. Oy vavoy, right? Common sense. Okay. Some people don't learn. Others, thank God they do. Let's continue. Moses then said, Master of all the worlds, give me a wonder and a sign. To which God said, throw your staff on the ground. And he threw his staff on the ground. So in Hebrew, the words for wonder and sign are mofet. Mofet is for wonder, and sign is ot. What's the difference? Our sages say that an ot, a sign, is in the heavens, and a mofet, a wonder, is on the earth. You can also read this as spiritual and physical, and we can see this in verse 21, for instance, of chapter 4. ויאמר השם אל משה בלכתך לשוב מצרימה ראה כל המופתים. Wonders. The Lord said to Moses, when you go to return to Egypt, see, here, look what it says, all the signs that I have placed in your hand to perform before Pharaoh. All right? You see with the translation, how the understanding is just completely gone. And again, I take all the translations from the same website. It's just copy and paste, so I have the Hebrew and English next to it. But you obviously have to read the Hebrew, and everything matters. And like I said, this is from the Chabad website. It's a great website. Everything is organized. You have access to everything, but even they get it wrong. So, this is strange, since from the same translation, you get this if you read Deuteronomy 34:11. And we know this verse, right? Ulechol ha'otot ve'hamoftim. Here we see otot, signs, ve'hamoftim, wonders, asher shalcho Hashem la'asot be'eretz Mitzrayim, as manifested by all the signs and wonders which the Lord has sent him to perform in the land of Egypt. So here they got it right. This is strange, right? I don't know if it's lazy or if it's just because it sounds better to say signs instead of wonders if you only have option for one. What did God place in Moses' hands? The ability to command the natural world. That's through the staff, which we learned all about, right? So what are the signs that Moses performed? The ones that transcended this world? Well, he brought the Torah, now didn't he? And he had to best all the heavenly hosts in order to do so. Moses went up to the spirit realm in his physical form. If you are in your physical form, you cannot even behold spiritual beings. You will die. Just read what happened in the book of Daniel when the angel Gabriel showed up to Daniel over there, and he wasn't even in his full angelic form. Later on, he became the form of a man, and Daniel almost died. And we see this all throughout. The angel touched me, and all of a sudden he raised me up because I was like a dead person. Not only Daniel, Isaiah, Yechezkel, and so on and so forth. So Moses was a special character. There's no doubt about this. So Moses threw his staff on the ground, and it became a serpent, seraph. Nachash saraf, it says. Where have we seen these two words together? Numbers 21:6. Vaishlach Hashem ba'am et hanechashim haserafim. The Lord sent against the people the venomous snakes. That's how it's translated over here. One of the types of angels are called seraphim, and they are fire angels, which is apparent by their name. Now, make no mistake, all angels are essentially fire angels. They are made up of fire and air. We discussed this already by the makeup of the universe. Man is made from the 4 elements. The angels, the spirit, is only made up of 2, which is wind and fire. Wind and fire, you can feel them, but you can't hold them. You can't touch them, but boy, can they touch you, right? Okay, so we get it from their name. The word is seraph, which means to burn or incinerate. Lisrof is to burn. Saraf is he burnt in the past tense. While there are, of course, spiritual connotations in this verse, we're not going to get into exactly what those are right now, but we understand from the simpler text that they are interchangeable in the context of serpents. And serpents all have several names, one of them being tanin, or translated in Genesis as the great monsters. A taninim agdolim, it'll say sea monsters, although it didn't say necessarily sea in Genesis. In fact, Pharaoh himself was called Hatanin Hagadol, the great serpent, right? Because at that point in time, he had the most power in the world. He was the most evil man in the world. And yes, more powerful than Bilam because of his command of things. He still hired Bilam to do things, right? And that's specifically why Egypt had to be eradicated. So why the combination of Nachash Saraf? Because this is to show us that the venom from the serpents burn our insides like fire. Okay? Really plain and simple. We're just going to read from the Pshat over here. And why did the Holy One, blessed be He, show him the Nachash Saraf from the staff and not something else? Now, the interesting thing is that just a really quick thing, you know, where it says that Moses put the serpent on the staff. The word in Hebrew is nes, al hanes. Nes is another word for a pole. Nes is also another word, not another word. Nes is a miracle. Nisim veniflot, right? And when it turned the serpent, the staff turned into a serpent, vayanas Moshe, Moses fled from it. Lanus is to run away. So vayanas and nes, first Moses fled from it, then afterwards Moses put up on the pole. And there's also some hidden meanings, obviously, where God said, take a seraph and put it on the pole, and Moses took a serpent. It didn't take a serpent, he fashioned a serpent out of copper. In any case, it's a whole nother story, whole nother parsha. We've got to focus on this right now, but I can't help myself. All right, so why did he show him a nachash saraf from the staff where he threw it to the ground and not something else? Because just as a venomous serpent kills through its bite, so does Pharaoh and his people and the Egyptians, who bite Israel and kill them. Then God said, now go grab its tail, show it who's boss, change its form to something unrecognizable, humble it, remove its power, make it dry and lifeless. And the Lord said to Moses, stretch forth your hand and take hold of its tail. So Moses stretched forth his hand and grasped it, and it became a staff in his hand. Do you understand now? Pharaoh and Egypt were the key to releasing Israel. There always has to be a balance of power, back then and now as well, always. We know that Rome and Jerusalem cannot be built at the same time. We've been through this, it says in the Talmud, right? And Rome is not necessarily Rome, Italy, or the Catholic Church, but rather the false religion and the Western world. This all stems from the Western world, meaning Christianity, right? So let's say the United States, is it Rome? It is, right? Even though a lot of people in the States aren't necessarily Christian, it is a predominantly Christian country. Again, this is not saying that all Christians are bad. It's a false religion, it's idolatry, and it has to be eradicated. Bottom line. Okay. So until the world as we know it is destroyed, Jerusalem cannot be built. That's why everything has to fall. Until every single governing body in the world falls, Mashiach cannot take his place. All these things have to happen before. This is why I'm saying I'm not making these things up, that the world has got to be destroyed. The world has to turn itself over. Read the books. Until Pharaoh and Egypt fall, Israel cannot be free. That's it. Then and now. Now you can ask yourself why this is a process and did not happen all at once. It's simple for God, like all things. Okay, boom, Israel's back in the land. Come on, never works like that. Not in our religion anyway. Because through the process of dismantling the lies, Israel will then see the truth be it strengthened and return to their father. You see, Israel still has to make that choice. So layer by layer, God is going to peel away the lies. Just like we'll read at the end of Masechet Sotah chapter 9. The end of chapter 9 Masechet Sotah in the Mishnah. Everything is getting dismantled, so there is no one else we can lean on but our Heavenly Father. Happened then, it will happen now again. And we see already, believe me, in Israel, people already see the government. They're like, nah, I don't trust you. Don't trust you at all. Don't trust the leaders. Don't trust the leaders in the army. You got to see what kind of testimonies we're getting from the front lines over there, from the soldiers, the tzaddikim, the righteous who are giving their bodies for the sake of Israel, their lives. They're saying, we are seeing our government give our enemy all the aid. They're helping our enemy. What kind of war is this? We're giving him electricity and water and humanitarian aid, and we know where it goes. And we see where it goes. I see videos where it goes, for goodness sakes. Well, we don't know this? This is crazy. Are we fighting a war, or are they not letting us win the war? There's your answer right there. It's a very, very sad situation, but people are now starting to see. That's why God is now shaking the world. And people are going to see, so they're going to be able to choose God because there's going to be nothing else to choose from. Nothing and nobody. Okay, so first, when Israel returns to God, first it's going to come out of fear from the enemy, of course. That was the collective cry that started the final stages of the process, like we read at the end of chapter 2 in Exodus. But then the return would turn from the enemy to reverential fear of God. In other words, okay, I'm afraid of the enemy. God, please save me. And then when you see God dismantling the enemy, you are awestruck, right? You are awestruck. Think about it. Think about it like this. You're getting beat up by 10 dudes. You're a little kid. They're bullies, whatever. God's, help me. Help, Dad. And you're crying out. Your dad hears. He comes running. He starts knocking them out left and right. They're flying everywhere. You are no longer afraid of the enemy. You're looking at your dad like, it's right. So this is what's going on. So God is doing this not only for the Egyptians' sake, it's for Israel's sake. He's helping Israel build their confidence in him so that they look to him, they turn to him. Okay. So, but then they would return from the enemy and reverence fear of God. Okay. And through the destruction of our enemies and our oppressors, God will show his love and mercy for his people. And that is a most humbling experience. You see, through this, from the reverence, you see what God is doing, and then that's where you really feel the love. He now has their full attention, which is exactly what we needed to give him from the beginning. And where does the love come from? When he purifies us, cleansed us of the filth of the world that we had been drowning in, and made an everlasting covenant with us. You see, it's brilliant, and everything happens in stages. And by the way, as much as this happens in stages for Israel, it happens simultaneous with the destruction of Egypt. So in other words, in the future, it's not that the world is going to be destroyed and then. There always has to be a balance. As the world is falling apart, Israel will rise. As Rome falls, Jerusalem is rebuilt. Everything is destroyed. The temple is complete. There's nothing else. There is one governance in the world. That's it. So these are the ones who would not let go of the world. Not to mention, so it all happens simultaneously, not to mention that those among us who would do more harm than good would be silently removed. And this you see during the plague of darkness, right? In other words, God doesn't need people that are going to not be with him, not move forward with him, mark on their body that they want to return after they somehow survived and lived, that they're going to return to their old ways. I don't know what to tell you, seriously. So these are the ones who would not let go of the world that they knew as it crumbled and burned around them. The world is not going back. We've already seen this over the past 3.5 years, right? Nothing is the same. Though people would like to brush it under the rug, the world is not the same. And the world has not been the same, at least for the last 20 years, okay? Everything changed. Now even more. How are people going to go back to normal? You understand, we're getting pressure from our friends over there across the way. This whole war ends in 2 weeks, or no more ammunition from us. What? I wouldn't even be surprised if the government said, you know what? Yeah, okay, sure. Well, we won. No, we didn't. We absolutely did not. There's no way out of this. You understand? There's no way out of this. People are going to be restless here. There's no way out of this. And in the meantime, the people that sold us out, that allowed everything to happen, there's no excuse. You understand? There's no going to sleep on shift. There's no excuse. The people that did this are the people running the show. They're running the fighting right now, which is why all I feel is sorrow for our soldiers. Their commander, I'm not talking about immediate commanders, but the higher ups, come on, they're all part of the same party over there. Anyway, you have to choose truth. Anything else is a lie. And so, as it was, so it will be. The last redemption, which we are currently in, mirrors the first redemption. And this whole process from the time Moses was called to the time of the Exodus was exactly 1 year. He was called on Erev Pesach. 1 year later was the Exodus. So we're talking about a very quick process. Once Mashiach shows up on the scene, we're talking about within a year, the whole thing is done. But today, we haven't all cried out yet. But we will. Those who will cry out, you see. Moses continued and said, Master of all the worlds, give me a wonder. Tenli mofet, meaning something over here. God said, please put your hand into your bosom, as said in verse 6. And the Lord said further to him, now put your hand into your bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and he took it out, and behold, his hand was leprous like snow. And why would the Holy One, blessed be he, show Moses this impurity as a sign of Pharaoh and not something else? Because the leper is impure and causes impurity. In Hebrew, that's tameh. Tameh is impurity. And metameh, and causes impurity. Tameh umetameh. Aside from the fact that Pharaoh actually was, like, legit a leper, so was his daughter. She was a leper, and that's what happened. That's how she found Moses. Because she did tshuva from her father. She separated from her father. She converted to Judaism. She went to dunk in the Nile to purify herself. Her leprosy left her when she got out of the water, and that's when she saw Moses. And that's where she stretched forth her hand. Because now that she was clean, she was able to touch a child like Moses. And we know this, she was called Batya, the daughter of God. And she's the one that actually named Moses Moses. Moses had 10 names. But because Batya, the daughter of God, and who rebelled against her murderous father for the sake of people she did not know, because she named him Moses, God said, no problem. His name is Moses because you named him Moses. And she's one of the people, by the way, who went into Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, alive. She never died. Great tzadikah. Okay. So Pharaoh was an actual leper. And so Pharaoh and the Egyptians, who were impure, and they were causing Israel to become impure. The Egyptians were so impure that each and every one of them would carry around a pocket idol. Where? Under their arm, against their bosom, right over here. Now, so you got to understand this, and we've said this plenty of times. There is no gray area when it comes to the Word of God. It is what it is, right? There's no two ways to interpret it. Meaning, if Israel is called the Holy Land, Adamat Tehorah, that means the land outside of Israel, meaning the rest of the world that is not Israel, is called Adamat Tme'ah, impure land. The air in Israel is Avira Merapeh. The air on the ground is healing air and healing earth. That means the air on the ground outside of Israel makes you sick, spiritually at least. So when Israel, you have today Jews, you have millions of Jews, especially in the States, when they're living amongst the nations over there, even though they don't necessarily keep to themselves. I lived in Brooklyn for a very long time. Even though you're there, and yes, you're in a Jewish community and everything, you're not. There's so much going on over there. It's impossible just to stay where you are, and this has an effect. So even a Talmud Chacham, as it were, in wherever in the States or in Europe or wherever, they still would see things that are very visible around them. They would still have other things rub off on them. It's a different level, like we read in the earlier chapters of Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. A goat herder in Israel who cannot read or write, meaning he has zero Torah, is still on a higher level than a great tzaddik or a prophet outside of the land of Israel. This just goes to show you the power of what's going on. If you actually had these people come into Israel, what a difference that would make. Okay. Anyway. So the Egyptians, like we said, they were so impure, each and every one of them, they would carry around their pocket idol under their arm against their bosom. What does this remind me of? Kind of like a cell phone, right? We carry each and every one of us today. And what is on this cell phone? What access do we have on these cell phones? With this device, we can get direct access to a world full of Torah in the palm of our hands, but also everything else. You got to see in the Haredi world, they call them kosher cell phones, the old school flip phones with no media. It's just dee-doo, the numbers, and that's it, and that's all they need. Now I'm thinking, so how do I do that? Because we have groups we have to maintain. I do a lot of work and I need my cell phone for that. So what do I do? I know there's always an excuse, but that's why I don't look at anything non-kosher on the phone either. So, all right. It's just a thought. So, but it does trouble me nonetheless. Anyway, so whenever they were around Israel, whenever the Egyptians were around Israel, they would take out and show them their idols. Impurity also comes through the eyes, You understand that even looking at an idol causes impurity. So what do we have today? You walk around the streets in Jerusalem, cross over here, another church over there, another church over there. There's a nice idol up there. They're everywhere. Everything's here. So even this land has to be cleansed and everything has to go. So those of you, again, who have been to Jerusalem, you can't walk a block here without most areas seeing some sort of Christian paraphernalia. What do you think that is? You see how the Sitra Achra is making sure we cannot know who we are. When there is impurity, there's no clarity. So we can't see clearly. Under the guise of religious tolerance, of course. Do you know that most of the land of Jerusalem is owned by the Roman Catholic Church? Neighborhoods over here, Orthodox Jewish neighborhoods are owned by the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, their title deeds mean nothing. We know whose land it is anyway, but it's all going to be over soon, so don't even worry about it. So just like God showed Moses his leprous hand once he placed it in his bosom as a sign, or rather wonder, but this is a sign meaning in the English, sign, of Israel becoming impure because of Pharaoh and the Egyptians. Once Moses returned his hand and placed it and took it out again, it became purified once again. And God told him, just like that, Israel will become purified from the impurities of Egypt. God couldn't just give them the Torah in the state that they were in. Absolutely not. We know that Israel was on the 49th level of impurity, about to cross over to the 50th, which would mean game over. There's 50 gates of Binah, of understanding. Binah, understanding. Yes, 50 gates of understanding. There's 50 Sharei Tum'ah, 50 gates of impurity, 50 gates of Tahara. Binah and Tahara is one and the same almost. So if they get over to the 50th, meaning on the negative side, there's no coming back from that. And that's why they left in a hurry before it was too late. And who was the one that sent them out in a hurry? From Exodus 12. And Pharaoh arose at night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great outcry in Egypt, for there was no house in which no one was dead. Talk about, and again, we know that the impurities of the dead, that's the worst impurity that there is in this world. So he called for Moses and Aaron at night, and he said, get up and get out from among my people, both you as well as the children of Israel, and go worship the Lord as you have spoken. Take your flocks and also your cattle as you have spoken, and go, but you shall also bless me. And so the Egyptians took hold of the people to hasten them, to send them out of the land of Egypt, for they were all dead. Get out. Pharaoh and the Egyptians said, get the hell out of here. That's right. It was Pharaoh and the Egyptians. It's clear over there. Now, aside from the obvious of fear of annihilation by the God of Israel, right? So why did this happen? It's because Pharaoh knew that if Israel reaches the 50th gate of impurity, that would Israel would be destroyed. And he also knew that if there was no Israel, the world ceases to exist, because the world was created for Israel's sake. So if there is no Israel, and then there is also no Pharaoh. You get the idea. And why did the Holy One, blessed be he, show him the image of the fire within the bush? Here's a take on future events from the same scene, right? This is the very understanding of the 70 faces of Torah. They're all correct, because it gives you a multi-dimensional picture of essentially one element, which is connected to another and to another and so on. There's so many different dimensions to one thing. Now here's one, and it can connect in all different manners to another thing and another thing, another thing. It is infinite. You cannot count these things. So why the fire within the bush? What is God showing Moses with this? The fire is Israel, specifically the righteous of Israel. If we look at Israel today, I would say there are very few who are actually righteous. And no, I would not be foolish enough or prideful enough to count myself among them, but I can say that I'm really trying with everything I got. This I can say. So what does it mean when we read in Isaiah 60:21, and your people, all of them, are righteous? Ve'amcha kulam tzadikim. This is an end-time prophecy, of course, meaning we know that whoever are called God's people, whoever make it through, whoever are going to be resurrected and live forever, they are considered righteous. And they all are, and they're all God's people, whoever is left, right? Back in Egypt, were all Israel righteous? Of course not. As only the righteous merit to be redeemed. That's how 80% disappeared, because they weren't on the level. And like I said, after what happened on Simchat Torah and speaking to people and just looking at what's going on, that same hatred is back. It never really left. It was just, we just ignored it for a while to look at this right now. But the whole back with the protests for the sake of protest, with this a protest, everything is protest. Angry, angry, angry. Everybody's getting us angry at each other. It's just crazy, and people aren't seeing what's going on. So then you understand, wait a minute, so 80% of us have to disappear. How could this possibly happen? I gave you an example from earlier. Just look around today. You see them. You see them. The slogan in Israel is Beyachad Ninatzach, together we will win. Only one channel says Be'ezrat Hashem, with the help of God, together we will win. That's the truth, because together, the way we're in right now, first of all, there is no together. That is an impossibility. These are just slogans that they throw out. Everything they're trying to sell you today in Israel, all the commercials, due to the tough times, the car insurance is da-da-da-da-da. Together we will win. No joke. Supermarkets selling sufganiyot for Hanukkah. In these tough times, we need some sweetness in our life. Together we will win. garbage. The world just takes a tragedy and tries to make something off of it. Anyway, so that's how 80% disappear. The fire is Israel, specifically the righteous of Israel, as said in Obadiah 1:18, and the house of Jacob shall be fire. And the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau shall become stubble. Okay, but right now we're focusing on the house of Jacob shall be fire. And the bush, these are the wicked who are likened to thorns and thistles. God told him, as of now also meaning until the time of the end, the fire that are Israel does not burn the wicked, which are the thorns, nor do the wicked extinguish the fire of Israel. Like we said last week, that the bush could not have been up on that mountain without a water source, which means it was also filled with water, which means it should have extinguished the fire. It was a miracle that none of them extinguished the other, right? But this is what we're discussing. If Israel is to be built, everything else has to disappear. The fire of Israel, right, okay, so nor do the wicked extinguish the fire of Israel. The fire of Israel, to get even more specific, are the words of the Torah, the reverence of God and good deeds of the righteous. That's really where the source of the fire comes from. When Israel live like this in an ideal world, they're covered by the Shekhinah, which is likened to fire. So, this is all very true since we are both still very much here, meaning Israel and the rest of the world. But in the times to come, the righteous of Israel, who will be all of Israel, meaning all of remaining Israel, their fire will consume the wicked. These are the nations, who are likened to thorns and thistles, as said in Isaiah 33:12. And the nations shall be as the burnings of lime, severed thorns, with fire they shall be burnt. This is happening. Again, not every last individual from the nation. The redemption is not only for Israel. There's still going to be more nations, meaning more people in the world who are from the nations rather than Israel. Israel is always going to be a small bunch, okay? But we're talking about the nations, whoever's going to be left there, they are going to be Noahides. End of story. Noahides, you live good. No idolatry. Once you start going over there, you're done. That's it. God loves all his people, all his creatures, but everybody's got a job to do where they are. So if you understand what we're reading here, then you will observe how there is a balance between Israel and the nations, Dafka, meaning it's not only Rome per se. Why is Rome always like the head guy? Because Rome is the head guy. That is Jacob versus Esau. Rome, whose angel is the angel of death, they are the ones that are actually leading all the other nations. They are the representatives of the other nations. So that means between Israel and the entire world, that's a balance over here. Does that seem lopsided, perhaps? We're talking quantity versus quality, maybe. Deuteronomy 32:8, when the Most High gave nations their lot, when he separated the sons of man, meaning to the 70 nations, 70 tongues, he set up the boundaries of nations, spiritually speaking, according to the number of the children of Israel. And it's more than quantity versus quality, since the only reason nations exist to begin with is for the sake of Israel. So there's no comparison over here. And if you're having a hard time with what I just said, read the very next verse. Because the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob, the lot of his inheritance. Why does it say Jacob? We've discussed this for years. Sometimes it says Jacob, sometimes it says Israel. You cannot be Israel if you are not Jacob. Jacob means you have a hard life, like our father Jacob. You can't just feel like you're Israel and, oh, I'm Israel now because I feel like it. It doesn't work like that. In the trenches with you, then you get to call yourself Israel. As we see the nations raising their heads against Israel based on prophecy, which is never wrong, obviously, all the prophecies that said that would be happened. What is the one condition for against Israel prophecy not happening? Tshuva. That's always a thing. When people say again, oh, well, it doesn't have to happen if it's bad. Sure, do tshuva. Without tshuva, it's going to happen. Every time. We know that all the nations will turn on Israel, every last one, including Uncle Sam's. This is not to say that all the people from the nations will be wiped out. Rather, only those who turn against Israel. That's it. Most people in this world, they are just fillers. They are just, you speak to some people. There's, the lights might even be on, but there's definitely nobody home. Moses said to the Holy One, blessed be he, Master of all the worlds, reveal to me your great and holy name, so I may call to you, and you may answer me. This is it, kids. So, you can ask the question, as our sages do. When we pray to God, why does he not answer our prayers? Why does he not answer when we call? I've known enough people. Hold on, I'll address everything. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Well, God answers. Shush. Listen. I've known enough people throughout my life who have all but given up hope and faith because when they cry out, there is no answer. There have been plenty of times that I cried out screaming with tears, brokenhearted on the floor, and I didn't get an answer, although I thought I didn't. But I didn't get an answer immediately when I cried out, right? The more you get to know God, the more you realize, Baruch Hashem, you don't do that and expect what you want at that moment, right? So first of all, this is not exclusive across the board, okay? I've gotten answers sometimes, but most of the time, and I do mean most, there is no answer. Really, sometimes where you pray for something with all your heart, not out of sorrow, but out of complete oneness and peace, you will get that answer like, whoa. And I'm not talking about the Lord told me. I'm talking about something that hard evidence of understanding, something I got that thing that I needed, okay? But we're talking about, so like I said, an immediate answer because we have to make distinctions over here. Does God answer? When does he answer, right? This is not to say that an answer didn't come. It's just that most of the time, almost all of the time, it's not in the form that we are looking towards. God, answer me like this in here. But God's answering you right here. You don't want to look there because you just care about what you want. You see, this happens a lot. So it's not in the form that we are looking towards or the answer that we are looking for. People want to be validated. God, show me that I am correct. No. God, show me the truth, different story. And whatever the truth is, I promise to go there, different story. You'll get the truth. But most people don't want to look at the truth because it means that you are wrong. And if you are wrong, you're going to have a hard time turning, unless you have an ego. I don't have an ego. Yes, you do if you just said that, okay? Who doesn't have an ego? We got to overcome that. That's another separation right there. So, and people later in life will be very grateful that they didn't get the answer that they wanted, as taught to us from last week by Iron Mike. Words of wisdom indeed. God hears everything. We know this. So then the question is, why does he not answer if we actually do cry out to him? You could say this, look what happened in the Holocaust, right? Millions upon millions. By the way, we know it's way more than 6 million. I think it's closer to 9. They're lying about everything, okay? Closer to 9 million gone. A lot of people aren't accounted for. For instance, just what happened the other day on Simchat Torah, they haven't finished finding people. Hundreds of people are still missing. They're not telling you how many soldiers died. Now we just got word before I started this drash that the number is up to 104 or 105 soldiers that died since the beginning of the fighting. That's since they entered Gaza. We're not talking about the hundreds of soldiers that were murdered in their beds at night by the border the night before, that they're keeping from you. Oh yes, I saw videos. Everyone is lying to you. Be very afraid. There is no one that we can trust except for God. So like I said, God hears everything. He knows everything. So why does he not answer when we cry out? Because we don't know his name. There is a specific number over there. Because if we did, he would answer immediately. How do I know this? I don't know this, but David does. Psalms 91, 14, 15. For he yearns for me, says God. He yearns for me. I shall rescue him. I shall fortify him because he knows my name. Because he knows my name. He will call to me, and I shall answer him. I am with him in distress. I shall rescue him, and I shall honor him. There's something here. You see that. The cults and all the rip-off clubs over there, they think that if they pronounce Yahoo or whatever they say, that that's God's name. Let's put it like this. If they would somehow, for some, really, I say miraculous reason, because it's never going to happen, but let's say they actually got it right, they would drop dead on the spot, because uncircumcised Philistines are not allowed to call upon the name of the Lord. It's reserved specifically, we're going to see exactly for who. And even if they had the correct spelling, they would have no idea how to pronounce it. Nor could they possibly have the right internal correction to do so. This is an impossibility. Who do you think God is going to reveal his name to? I hope you see where I'm going with this. And obviously we're backing this up by scripture. It's to his people at the end of time, at the time of the end, at the time of great distress. It has to come. It's perfect. It's from all angles. The thing is coming perfectly. The time has already been predestined. And only his people will know this name. As said in Isaiah 52:6, therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore on that day, for I am he who speaks, here I am. Someone call me? Here I am, kids. What's up? This name isn't going to be announced on the news, not on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. It's going to be given individually to Israel, the real Israel. Into their hearts, there will be an understanding, there will be a knowledge of God's name. Remember, no one else is going to hear it. No one else will be able to say it. And even if you hear it, it will not register with you. Just like the name on the staff of Moses. Nobody else understood what that was. It was pretty pictures. Moses understood it, spoke to him, it called to him. He got it. So you remember the plague of blood, right? Even when the Egyptians tried to circumvent it's everything, but the Hebrews, they're drinking fine. No problem here. Give me your cup. Pour the water. I see you're pouring water into your cup, Hebrew. Give me your cup. It's blood. Okay, this is not working. How about we drink from the same cup at the same time? Looking, it's water. They both drank from the same cup at the same time. The Hebrew was drinking water. The Egyptian was drinking blood. You're not getting around this. You're not getting around this. People think shortcuts. Don't even. Okay, no shortcuts. All the imposters will be very ashamed. Everybody is going to be exposed from the inside out. You don't want to be on that side. You want to stand in truth before this comes. Because in the end, it's going to be like it says in Micah 4:5. For all peoples shall go, each one in the name of his God. But we will go in the name of the Lord our God. In the name of forever and ever. Jeebus, help me. No answer. Yahoo, save me. No, that's not right. But God did answer Moses, as said in Exodus 3:14-15. But let's also read 13 for context. And Moses said to God, behold, I come to the children of Israel, and I say to them, this is Moses saying, right? The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? You're like, oh, wait, what? Hold on. What? Who doesn't have access to this text? Do you think it's that easy? Some people do. God said to Moses, Eheye asher eheye. I will be what I will be. And he said, so shall you say to the children of Israel, Eheye, I will be, has sent me to you. Okay. And God said further to Moses, so shall you say to the children of Israel, the Lord, God of your forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever. And this is how I should be mentioned in every generation. Now, people, here we go. People might read this and think, oh, look, God did tell Moses his name. Now I can know it, and now I can say it too. Have at it. This is obvious foolishness, right? This is what we call simple minds. The Radal refers to the words of Rabbi Akiva, who is actually the student of Rabbi Eliezer Hagadol, who we are studying from, specifically from Otiot de Rabbi Akiva, the letters of Rabbi Akiva, the letters Hey and the letters Zan. Zan meaning Zain, the seventh letter. I'll try to sum it up because it's long. I'll just give you some points over here, because then this class would just, All right. He says, the universe was created through the letter Hey, pronounced He. That's really how you pronounce it. It's not hay, like hay is for horses. He. That's that. He. Because it is the only letter in which no part of your mouth touches the other. Now I'm talking about the sound of the letter itself, the sounding of the letter itself, meaning not necessarily the sound that it makes. So for instance, Aleph. The sound that the Aleph makes is ah, right? Nothing is touching in my mouth, but it's not the sound, it's pronouncing the letter. Aleph. My mouth is touching. Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zain, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadik, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Taf. My mouth is working all the time, but not with the letter He, right? Nothing touches. Even in the back of my throat, nothing touches over there. So you'll see this is the only one that no part of your mouth touches, right? Nothing comes out, no spit comes out. We can also see, so this is, by this the world was created, and we can see this in Genesis 2:4. Ele toldot hashamayim ve'aretz behi bar'am beyom asot Adonai Elohim eretz v'shamayim. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. Obviously, we'll go into the Hebrew, don't worry about it. On that day, the Lord, the God, made earth and heaven. Behi bar'am. We know it's an anagram for Be Avraham. Through Abraham, the heavens and the earth were created, and the earth and the heaven. Why? Because Abraham was the first. He was the one that God said, this dude loves me. I'm going to now make a covenant with him and his seed. That's the people who later on I'm going to give my name to. But you can also read it, Behei Bar'am. In He, in the letter He, he created the heavens and the earth and the heaven. And because this is a breath, and no other action, breath, right? No other action or friction is being made. It is the purest of all letters. When God tells Moses, his name is Eheye. Eheye. Get it? It stands for Aleph, Hey, and Yud and Hey. Ani hakol yatzalti hakol. I am all, I formed all. And then also backwards. Hakol yatzarti, hakol ani. All I formed, all am I. In any direction. I will be what I will be. What does Rabbi Akiva say? I was here before the world. I am here and I will be here after the world is. I created the world through mercy. I govern it through mercy and I will renew it through mercy. Like we said, judgment is only mercy concealed from last week's Parsha. Judgment is that correction, but it all comes from the same source, from mercy. I created the world through good. I govern it through good, and I will renew it through good. I created the world through faith. I govern it through faith, and I will renew it through faith. Technically, the world should not exist within the reality that it is created. I'm telling you guys. Well, Rabbi Akiva is saying, this line is for me, but here's what he says. This is because of free will. I'm saying everything in the universe does according to the will of God, right? Everything. God did this, is this after its own kind, this, that, and whatever, except for man, who has the ability to create and to destroy, in a sense, like God. God-like abilities. The letters, now this is Rabbi Akiva. The letters are their own powerful, well, I'm saying this. Okay, I'm confusing the two. I'm just giving you guys an explanation for his words, otherwise you won't understand it. The letters have their own powerful individual identity. They all have a personality. You could read about this in the beginning of the Zohar. Akdamat Zohar Bereshit. God speaks to all the letters. Which one of you should I use to start the Torah from? He goes from Taf all the way back down to Bet. Why is Bet chosen Bereshit? Why was Bet chosen to be first letter? Because with Bet we say a bracha. We levarech, we bless God. God said it's a good choice. And all of them had good, legitimate uses. Okay? Anyway, it's another story. So, they're all their powerful individual entity made up of fire. Now here, this is from Rabbi Akiva. The letters are made up of fire that look like flashes of what can only be described as lightning, engulfed with flames of light, and the height of each letter, get this, 21,000 elef revavot. What does that translate into? Roughly, over a quarter of a billion kilometers in height, each letter. Clearly, this is not the letter that you're reading in your book, okay? Letters are spiritual things that manifested physically, and this is how they look like. So remember, God used these letters to speak, the world, all of existence, into reality. He used these letters. When it says that Israel saw the voices, ra'u et hakolot, how could they see the voices? They beheld the letters. The cosmos opened up for them. The 21 is because that's the numerical value of the word eheye. Now, again, also we've learned before, what does it mean, eheye asher eheye? I will be to Israel as they are to me. Meaning it might seem like I'm changing my way and changing my form, but God doesn't change. It depends on where you are standing, right? Okay. Now if you have the throne of God, all around him, these letters, the names, like pillars of fire, these are the letters in the combinations of the holy names of God. You see, Eheye is a representation of all the names. Eheye, wherever you are, that's how you will perceive it. As to us, they are ever changing because we change, but the names never do. As God told Moses in the end of the verse, this is my name forever, and this is how I should be mentioned in every generation. So you understand how great of an encounter this was. God revealed to Moses all the explicit names of God, all of them. But in the names, and be it the names upon the crown of God, again, the crown of God, the throne of God, the staff which Moses had, the pillars around the throne, the seals that hold the fabric of the universe together. Moses now had them all. Only Moses had them all. And he gave his name to Moses with love and mercy. As we know, the highest of the names is the four-letter name of God, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? Which also is a representation of something greater than we can even begin to comprehend. So again, God said to Moses, Eheye asher eheye, I will be what I will be. And he said, so shall you say to the children of Israel, Eheye, I will be, has sent me to you. When this took place, all the heavenlies saw that God handed Moses the secret of his explicit name. It's not just enough to have the letters or even the combinations of the letters. There are secrets behind everything that if you read it in any other language, even if you read it in Hebrew, you won't understand it. Forget about any other language. So the heavenlies, the angels, they were not happy about this. Just like they were not happy about giving up the Torah, the blueprint of reality, because they saw how flawed man was. Although man is the only one that can keep the Torah is all spiritual, yet it can only be fulfilled in the physical realm. Which is why Moses was the only one who could handle the truth of his name, and was the only one worthy of taking the Torah off the hands of the angels. I have incredible books over here. Some amazing stuff about what Moses actually went through when he walked into the dark cloud after they received the Ten Commandments, 40 days. What did he do up there? What went down? The angels that he encountered? He was taken up to the heavens in his physical form, something unprecedented. This did not happen. This does not happen. Usually a form has to change. I'll just give you a little bit of a hint over there. Just like what happened, how when Adam, after the sin, he started becoming physical, right? How did he started becoming physical? God said, how do you know that you're naked? Because he was covered in the clouds of glory. Therefore, he was almost like invisible, right? And so now he's becoming tangible, meaning he can actually see himself. That's how he knows he's naked. So call it like a spacesuit. When Moses went in there, those same clouds of glory, they covered him like a spacesuit, so he, in his physical form, could exist in a spiritual plane. Crazy stuff. Okay. So not only that, He had to best all the angels of heaven in order to receive the Torah from them. He went through each and every one. They all asked him questions. He answered them. It wasn't like, okay, let's do this. Those aren't the kind of battles that go on in heaven at all. I mean, it's, they make for great Hollywood movies, kind of, but that's not at all what happens in heaven. Because in the end, they had no choice but to hand over the Torah to Moses, knowing it was in the best hands possible. So when they saw that God had given Moses the secret of his name, they all said, Baruch atah Adonai, chonen hada'at. Blessed are you, Lord, who grants knowledge. This is the fourth blessing in the Amidah, right? We say Magen Avraham, Mechayeh HaMetim, Ha'el HaKadosh, and then Chonen Hada'at, the guardian of Abraham, he who resurrects the dead, the holy God, and then the fourth, which is the beginning of the middle part, because the Amidah changes on Shabbat and on Chagim. You have the first three blessings and the first last blessings. They all always stay the same. But then you have the middle part in Shabbat and Chagim. It changes out. That's why you have Tfilat. It's called Tfilat Sheva. There are 7 blessings instead of 18 plus 1, meaning 19. So this is the beginning of all the blessings that are in between. That's a blessing we bless. So this is the fourth blessing in Amidah prayer. As we know, Moses exclusively holds the hidden Sephira of knowledge. Yes, Moses was also the Sephira of Hod, but also he was Dat, and only he was Dat. It is the hidden sphere of knowledge, the 11th Sephira, which is a culmination of wisdom and understanding below, and mercy and judgment above. It's right between those 4 over there. It essentially connects the upper Sephirot, the top 3, with the bottom 7. The blessing goes as follows. You grant knowledge to man and teach understanding to mortals. Grant us from you knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. It says Heskel. Heskel is Sechel. Sechel comes from wisdom. Okay, it's another way of saying wisdom. Blessed are you, Lord, who grants knowledge. Knowledge without wisdom and understanding is a very dangerous thing. A lot of people today have knowledge. All these, the string pullers, they worship knowledge, right? The serpent gave them knowledge. They have knowledge, but without wisdom and understanding, everything is being destroyed. So just because a person, let's say, knows their Bible verses, great, you have knowledge. Okay. You have 0 understanding, nor do you have wisdom, because nothing else could come from that, except you can regurgitate verses. That means absolutely nothing. So I'm not impressed by people who, does it not say? Yes, it does. What about it? Connect the dots. That's what the sages did. Yes, we all have access to the same books. Connect those dots and show me what that means through the connection of the dots that any idiot can understand. That's what the sages did, because they had understanding, and understanding is not something you can acquire. It is something that is given based on your deeds. That's how you get it. Okay. So, knowledge without wisdom and understanding is a very dangerous thing, and that is why Moses was chosen, because he was the humblest of all men, as it says clearly in the Torah. Now, I don't believe it's just letters and vowels, by the way. It has to be a two-way street. The heart needs to be in the right frequency so it can send and receive a signal. That's why we need refinement in order to get us to that level. That's why the birth pangs of Mashiach are very necessary, to get us in that frequency. Once we are refined properly, then we will be able to hear the name that God will be giving to us. Guess what? It's here all the time. It's not hid. It is hidden. This Zeshmi Leolam, Zeshmi Ledor Vador. This is my name for all of eternity, and this is how I should be called in every generation. God has not gone anywhere. He concealed himself because we have been in a fallen state. Very simple. So God willing, in the near future, when we are all humbled properly, God will give his people his secret name, by which when we cry out to him, he will answer. And thus concludes chapter 40. So thank you guys, as always, for joining me. I hope you are having a very happy and a very meaningful Hanukkah. I hope you are drawing in that light. We are going to need it, especially for what is to come. Not only the month of Tevet, the dark month of Tevet, but for what is to come. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your week and have a Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.